Here we have a recent crash with a paraglide from a friend of mine. This one easily could have made it to the fatality list, but luckily ended just as an accident report. Pilot took a conservative line as it was his first time flying in this place. No proximity flying, just staying high and getting a safe scout about the area. His vision was locked on the small uphill landing area, which got his full attention. That focus caused him to oversee the cables, in which he flew straight into, instantly shredding the lines around 14 meters above the ground. He definitely made the right thing afterwards and immediately threw the reserve without hesitation. But unfortunately, he was already too low for it to open. A ground camera showed that it eventually deployed after reaching the trees, so added to the branches and wing fabric, the reserve fabric probably helped to slow down the impact getting caught in the trees. Takeaways here are: don't get tunnel vision, keep situational awareness sharp, use quality gear such as a helmet and a fast deploy emergency rescue. Keep in mind that in order to open quickly, it has to be repacked at least once a year. Otherwise, the material could start sticking together and slow down or even prevent completely the time of opening. An airbag won't make miracles in such a situation, but if you use a good one that covers part of your back too, it's definitely a big difference and can reduce injuries significantly. Last thing I want to note is that sometimes, depending on the light circumstances, cables are very hard and sometimes even impossible to see. If you fly in new places, I'd always ask locals for advice and if there are any dangerous cables along the road. This pilot stated that he changed the original brake holders with magnetic ones, and that's where an A-line got stuck on. He says that it's impossible to happen on the original ones the wing came with, but it's possible that the same thing happens with a trimmer buckle. He made a semi-complete pre-flight check, holding A's, all other lines going over my arm, instead of verifying that each A also went directly to the wing. And while running, he felt no pressure inside the wing, but thought it was because of cross or tailwind, so dropped it anyway. He managed to stay relatively calm during the flight, but had to fight a lot to keep the wing open to fly. He stated that he was at around 75% of the left brake just to keep the wing flying straight. Takeaways here are: always make a complete and detailed pre-flight check. Cliff launches can get dangerous if something's wrong with your wing. An emergency parachute can always save your life. And don't downsize too quickly. Only fly wings you can handle in extreme situations like this pilot did. Everyone can fly small wings, but ask yourself if you would have the necessary experience to react the right way in unexpected scary situation. This guy is flying a 6.5 meter wing, by the way. Imagine on that size having 1/3 of your wing not flying and still manage to make it fly straight somehow. Those wings have a very sensitive stall point, so applying the right brake in such extreme situations is very difficult. So that's one of the main reasons why you should not downsize too quickly. Quick reminder to watch your wingspan and leave enough safety margin for unexpected events. The pilot said that there were people fishing with a fishing rod going into the water that he saw at the last moment, so he had to make a larger turn to the right. He knew the windsock was there, but had to make the turn sharp because he risked to not make it over the stones. Now from this situation we can learn that sometimes it's better just to get wet and land into the water instead of trying to force something if you already have the sensation that you don't have enough energy to make it. That one was a very close one. Definitely not a good idea trying to launch in between a tight space. Same here. Always ensure you can make it over an obstacle even if you face unexpected conditions like sinking air, and leave some margin. Reminder that a normal takeoff is always safer than a cliff launch. If you fall, at least you just slide down the slope instead of falling down a cliff. As you can see here, where the pilot applied too much brake, which lets the wing fall behind him, and he falls down the cliff. But luckily the cliff was not steep enough to make him fall or slide down further.
Yeah, I'm good, yeah.
Now this pilot, if I remember correctly, was waiting on the top to launch since a while, because of the wind direction constantly changing. When he finally thought he got a window, he decided to launch. Immediately after, he loses more altitude than usually, probably because the main wind direction was still from the side or back, which made him lose more altitude than usually and make him crash into the rocks. What caused him to lose more altitude was also the fact that it looks like the terrain goes slightly upwards and he had only 2 meters to run, so he wasn't able to gather speed. The less speed before you launch, or jump in this case, the more sink you will have. Takeaway here is, after the fatigue of hiking up a mountain, the joy of flying down is even greater, and nobody wants to hike down again by feet. But a 2 hours walk down is definitely better than a month-long recovery, so when conditions are not ideal, think for yourself if launching in this situation would work not just once, but another 100 or even 1,000 times. Also, if you decide to launch with bad conditions, at least try to do it only on nice grass takeoffs, definitely not on cliff launches. Here we have a chain event of overreactions. The pilot opens the trimmer close to the ground and had to pull the rear risers immediately to not hit the ground, which made him overreact and pull the risers down too much. He said the only thing he regrets was not stabbing on the toggles. Another safety tip I can add here is try not to open your trimmers if you are already close to the ground. Most speed wings start getting a lot of sink after opening it, and you must grab the rears immediately within a second to prevent bumping into the ground. If making a fast move and switching from brakes to the rears, there's a chance you might grab the wrong risers or on the wrong position. It happened to me once. Since then I opened them only with enough altitude with at least a few seconds left to react with calm. Also consider that it might happen that one trimmer only opens partially, which would cause you to make a steep turn and bump into the terrain if you're already very close to it. This pilot was probably a beginner, considering how he's holding the brake toggles. Coming in too low can happen to everyone, but if you don't know your wing's glide ratio perfectly yet, try always to leave some safety margin and don't fly lines where you have no way out. If the wind was not coming from the side, I would have probably went out earlier to the left side, or when realizing it later, to the right at this point. Also, I'm not sure if the trimmers were opened or not, but it looks like they were from this perspective. If they were opened, then it would have been way better to stay on the rear risers to maximize his glide ratio as soon as he realizes he was getting too low. Besides closing the trimmers, of course. Here we have a close call where I think we can learn a lot from. The pilot is very experienced, knew that slope very well and flew it already several times. He was about to hit a sharp and tight turn and quickly realized that this time he was probably not able to make the turn in time just by staying on the rear risers. Thanks to his fast thinking experience, he was able to switch to the brakes to make the turn sharper. After the turn, we can discuss about what would have been better, staying on the brakes or switching to the rears. In theory, switching to the rears would have been better to get a better glide, but in practice, considering he was on a very small wing, a 7-meter Mirage 2 RS Pro, and that he was already very low on the brakes and close to the ground, I think there might be a chance of bumping into the ground in that fraction of a second as soon as he would release the brakes to switch to rears. So yeah, it was probably the better and safer option to stay on the brakes. Worst case, if he missed the glide, he could have just slided out on his ass. What came after was, in my opinion, bad luck at the wrong moment. With being already the lowest possible on the brakes, getting an uneven part on the slope with a road exactly after the turn was definitely shitty. Takeaway here is that unexpected and unlucky situations can always happen, even if you wreck the best way possible. Luckily, the pilot didn't get hurt, but in a situation like this, an airbag could really prevent you from breaking your back or hips. Also, try to never only rely on your rear risers. Know how and when to switch to the brakes when necessary, such as when giving faster inputs for a sharp turn, losing more altitude with a turn, or slowing the wing down before an impact. And this is what really makes the difference when downsizing too fast. When you get in situations like this, where you get overwhelmed with information, if you downsize too quickly, you will not have the needed experience and fast thinking inputs to react in the right way.